Okay.
Should we dive in?
Let's dive in because we have to finish at 8:30. So I need to pull up. Oh my God, I've lost it.
You got it?
No, I'm just going to do it.
I believe in you. Coming up on this episode of Raise.
And if you don't have those three things, you can't progress forward. You have to be able to respect each other's areas of expertise.
Yeah.
I don't have all the answers just because I lead the programme. She just reached out to me on Teams and just wanted to say, well done. Everywhere I've worked, I will make sure that when I join somewhere, I go out and I will shadow them for a couple of days just to understand what it looks like on the ground.
Welcome to Raise, the podcast for fundraisers by fundraisers, where we talk about insights and strategy and all sorts of different things to innovate and elevate our sector. We're here to build up fundraisers and elevate careers and really provide a space for those crunchy conversations to have authentic, real chats. The whole premise is that we're sitting around at a pub and really getting a chance to kind of unpick some of those really important conversations that just feel like they need a little extra space to happen. So I'm really excited to be here. My name's Christine Neubeiser.
And I'm Sean, and we are joined by the amazing Jemma. So Jemma, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Jemma Shaw, and I am currently Head of Inclusive Growth at the Scouts, looking after a very large programme which is funded by the DCMS.
Wow.
Exciting
I like
stuff.
how you introduce yourself as Jemma Shaw, like
Bond, James
Bond.
Bond. But the other way around.
And I am very much dressed
Yeah,
like
you
the
are.
villain,
You
aren't
are,
I?
you are.
Yeah.
I honestly
very-
feel like so scruffy against the two of you today. Like you've both like gone really smart.
No,
and
but you've got like the saying.
I've got the same. This
Yes.
is like my favourite jumper. Hold on, let me just overthink this.
I love it.
It's so on brand. The company do another one that says fueled by pumpkin spice and anxiety, and I really need to buy it because it's just very
everything.
me. Yeah, it's everything.
Yeah.
But shall we cheers? before we
Yes.
get in because we
absolutely.
always
Are we?
forget to do this bit because we get too into the conversation.
So, cheers to raising money, voices, and glasses.
Cheers.
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 And Jemma, what are we drinking?
What is it? It's
We both bought the same one.
no, but it's something bay. I don't want to
Hold on. It's the Mystery Bay
mystery bay.
Mystery Bay.
Sauvignon Blanc by M&S.
I was going to say, can we promote? Yeah, M&S.
Not sponsored,
but could be.
but could be. Not sponsored
Willing.
by M&S, but could be. This is a throwback to our
Episode with Damien.
third episode. Yeah. I'm like, which episode was that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's good.
It's okay.
Love us off.
I love the fact that you both bought the same one.
Yeah, great minds.
Great minds, or the refrigerated section of M&S, and what was available.
Yeah.
Right. So, today, normally we have other fundraisers on this podcast, or coaches that have been fundraisers in the past, and you have never been a fundraiser.
Never been a fundraiser. Worked very closely all the time with fundraisers.
Is that because
but-
fundraisers are great?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. You can pay me later for saying
Thanks.
that. Yeah.
Just buy the cash under.
No, yeah, but always worked very closely with fundraisers.
So I think that leads into like what the whole topic of today is, which is around building those great internal relationships. And really that two-way street that kind of exists, because for fundraising to be successful, we need to be working really closely with programs teams to understand and be able to tell the stories and articulate the stories and get people to buy into that great feeling and that impact that we're going to create. But equally, from a program side, you need fundraisers.
Absolutely.
To
We wouldn't exist without you guys.
But we wouldn't exist without you.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a collaboration, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's what
The
it's
key
got
word
to
of
do.
the evening.
Yeah, it really is. And we say it all the time, we need to collaborate, but I think it's around collaborating with meaning. Yeah, I think you can collaborate by bringing people around the table, but for me, there's three key things for having a really strong connection, partnership with the fundraisers or the people, anyone you're working with.
Yeah.
It's communication, it's respect, and trust.
Wow.
And if you don't have those three things, you can't progress forward. You have to be able to respect each other's areas of expertise
Yeah.
Yeah.
and allow that person to go off and do what they need to do to get to the shared goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we forget, sometimes it's like, leave your ego at the door
Yeah.
and let's remember why we're here and why we're doing this.
Yeah.
And we're in the charity sector. There's always a purpose
Yeah.
to what we're doing. It's not for our gain, is it?
No.
And that ego bit. So I think it has come up on so many of the podcast episodes that we've done, like leaving your ego at the door. It's one of the
Yeah.
toughest things to do, but genuinely one of the most important.
Yeah.
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 I think that respect bit actually, like really, I mean, everything you said just really hits home. But I think one of the things that we're not really taught, I think, on either side, but it's just kind of expected when you start working in a professional environment, is that you know how to get on with people
Yeah, that's true.
to achieve something.
Yeah.
But it's not actually a taught thing. And I think one of the things that can be really tricky is understanding the priorities that other people have, what the work that they have to deliver, and why those two things are actually tied together.
Yeah.
And that sort of trust, respect, and like whole collaboration piece is the embodiment of all of those elements.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm wondering, just to kind of go into a bit of a question here, so full disclosure, Jemma and I used to work together. We worked together for about 8 years
Yeah.
in total.
Wow. I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a
And-
really long time.
Yeah, it was.
From like the very beginning of almost my career.
Yeah. And I suppose quite early into my career within the third sector, because I came from the private sector and then
Yeah.
then moved over.
Yeah,
Made the
and-
leap.
We were kind of thrust into this thing where Jemma was managing this program and it needed funding. And they were like, Truss, go fundraise for this
Wow.
program. And we like met and I was like, tell me things.
Yeah.
Like,
But that's exactly it, though. You came and said, "What is this program?" And but you find, and this is what I've learned. So I was having a conversation with you about this actually. That if you work in silos,
Yeah.
fundraising go off and do their thing because they're just generating the income, and then the delivery team aren't aware of what's being generated, and then you're trying to deliver something that you can't deliver because
Yep.
your strategy doesn't fit within
Yeah.
the fundraising strategy. So by saying, tell me more, what is this? Your expertise, and I've always said this about you, but fundraisers are excellent writers. You can sell something, and then you can identify what a funding stream coming through wants, and then I can explain it to you, but you've got that talent and the art of understanding what I'm delivering and going, this is how it fits in with this funder. This is how this is going to complement this fund. Let me go away and write up what you've just said in their language, essentially. Because every funder has a different language. If it's a corporate funder,
yeah.
their message is slightly different
Yeah.
to
And I think that's true.
government funders.
We yeah, exactly. So we've talked about it, like that's from a very high value perspective with trust corporates and H&I's high net worth individuals. Sorry, I just realized I used an acronym without meaning to. But that storytelling piece, so Sean's expertise is really on corporate or community fundraising.
Definitely not a corporate
Not
fundraiser.
corporate, sorry.
I'm a
Sorry.
community fundraiser.
Community fundraising and like mass public fundraising. And
Yes.
so you need to work with programs teams and like Gemma's teams in a different way.
In such a different way. And I think this is almost the bit where sometimes it can be like both a blessing and a curse in that we don't have that time to write. So kind of with trust and like with high net worth individuals, you've got time. You can have a conversation, you can fully explain it, you can like really drill down and talk about why things are important. Community fundraising, like sometimes you've got 5 seconds. you know, if you've got an ad out for an IG campaign or individual giving campaign, like you need to catch someone's like eye straight away. And I think that for me has been like some of the hardest conversations you've had, where you've got these really big complex campaigns or like programs that need funding, the attention span of potential donors, and like how do you bring those two things together really well so you still capture the nuance, but you're not losing people by being like, we need you to read 3 pages before you understand this.
Yeah. It's like that soundbite.
Yes. Yeah. That's a much more succinct way of putting it.
But when we worked together, one of the things that we got very good at was understanding how we were going to describe something for a donor. And then I remember one of the shifts. So in the organization we used to both work in, it was very sort of high value fundraising driven and not as pervasive in their unrestricted sort of wider fundraising. And one of the shifts that we worked together on and bringing other fundraising teams into was how are we going to create an unrestricted ask with the programs. And I think that is something that even in fundraising teams, we're not great at breaking those silos down. How do we learn from what another team has written? How do we take that and kind of flip the script a little bit?
Yeah, but also in theory, like you should be able to like take that messaging through. So if you've got a really cracking grants a grants application that's been written, you should then be able to turn that into a high value proposition, which should then be able to turn into a corporate proposition. You should then be able to turn that into an appeal, which can be then turned into a campaign. Like you should be able to take the threads of that all the way through. Yeah. But actually sometimes like grants and trust is a good place to start. Yeah. Because you get that widest lens on it, and then you can.
So what happened with the program that I was delivering at the time was it grew really organically, but it grew fast. But it started off with the corporate funder, which gave us flexibility to maybe manipulate what we were trying to deliver to then start to identify, for you to then start to identify the opportunities to build it and grow it. Yeah. And I think because we had the corporate funder, they were so flexible in the way we delivered. They let us advise them. Nice. Which was nice. And then,
which doesn't always happen. But
No, it was a unique situation, which definitely played into our favour. Yeah. But then we allowed that to fit within the strategy. So, but we started off really early, the early stages of the programme. We had a different leadership team as well, and we were not at we became heads off. So it was quite an organic. So as soon as we got elevated to the heads off, we had more influence around the strategy and direction. And because we worked really well together, we developed quite a good framework. And I think that was based on the trust that I mentioned earlier and the respect. Yeah. And that becomes challenging when you have to rebuild that and you realise what that framework was, and I use that model all the time now. Yeah. When I'm going into a new situation, I will promote the model that we use. Yeah. Because it did develop very organically. Yeah. But we did really well. Yeah. Yeah. We sustained a program for over 10 years.
Yeah. And I think just for like a little bit of context into that. So when we started on this journey, we had that corporate donor who was really flexible in that space, but provided a lot of core funding. And I know that doesn't happen all the time, but the blessing and the curse in that, when we look at it in hindsight, which is always 2020, right, was that it enabled us to, I use the jacket potato approach, which is basically you were able to kind of like change the filling. Like the program stayed the same, but you were able to sell it as like whatever you needed to. So it was a nature-based program. It was an arts-based program. It was all about volunteering. Yeah. So you just kind of changed the type of volunteering and how you talked about it. That was all well and good, but no funder was as big as that corporate funder. And then when the pandemic hit, that corporate funder pulled.
Really?
All the funding. So, but because we had built a mosaic model and built a lot of diversity in the portfolio that was supporting that program, and in fact had used a lot of those stories in public fundraising,
Yeah.
we were able to then have the base to pivot while we needed to find new funding and fundamentally change the program as well.
Yeah.
My budgetary skills throughout the whole, with that mosaic funding model, was my finance business partner became like one of my best friends because we spoke so much.
I love, but that's a testament to great internal working relationships,
Absolutely.
though, right?
Yeah.
So you have a great relationship with finance business partners now because you have to, and where you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's like how you set those relationships up from the beginning. So you talked a lot about right at the beginning about kind of finding that communication, that respect, that trust. Like, what did that look like practically for you? So what did that look like on a day-to-day basis?
So for me, it's, and I still adopt this now, it's having everyone around the table.
Yeah.
So, and especially if we're trying to, like for the pandemic, that was a huge challenge. But, your day-to-day challenges, I don't have all the answers just because I lead the program. I don't necessarily have all the answers. And actually, it's my delivery team who are on the ground who probably know the best solutions to some of our challenges. So it's about having everybody around the table and being open and transparent. And as a leader, I'm very I'm quite happy to show my vulnerability because I think if I show my vulnerability, they gain trust because they know I'm not giving them lip service.
Yeah.
And I will really want to bring them with me.
Such a thing.
We
talked about it in almost every single episode.
Yeah.
Vulnerability as a leader.
Humility, vulnerability, like how you model as a leader. Like,
Yeah. So when I did join the Scouts, the only experience I had of Scouts was my son going to Scouts, which was a very long time ago because he's now 21. So when I joined, I was leading this program, and it's a really important program. It's DC Mesh Uniformed Youth waiting list program. There's a number of other organisations, but I think if I recall rightly, the Scouts had we had a significant amount of money, and there's reputation to this program going forward. So I was really honest with the team. Well, I recruited a team from scratch, but I brought some internal people across.
Nice.
And I was very honest with them and said, listen, guys, you're going to have to be teaching me here because I don't understand all the elements of scouting. And it did take me a long time. Well, no, it took me just to understand their language. They've got their own internal language of hierarchical volunteering roles and things like that. So I was very, very open with them. I said, this is a journey that we're going to go on together. But I guarantee you at the end of this programme, what I'm going to ensure you have is you will have developed and learned new skills. So you will leave this programme, once it's completed, a much stronger and developed manager for the managers and the officers that we got on the ground.
It's so important because it's not about your skills in the moment. It's about your skills overall. And one of the things when you and I worked together, I just worked with everyone.
You have worked with everybody.
I know, but in this podcast, it's actually really fun. But when you and I worked together, we talked a lot about how you build great internal relationships, and they're just as important as your external relationships, and you have to nurture them in that same way. And you were such an incredible advocate, and it's a similar thing, right, about how you are working on that overall development to be the absolute best you can be. I realized that I just had my hand in front of my face, in front of the camera the entire time, so
you're fine.
It's a good app.
But exactly that, and I remember when we worked together at THT, it was one of those things we would do an appeal, and we would kind of say oh, this is how much it raised, and we kind of celebrate that within fundraising, and that's great. But my point was always so have you thanked comms? Have you shared with comms?
Or the services.
Or
who gave us all the case studies to be able to do that, what that means.
Or we did a really big give campaign, and I'm have you gone back to the people who gave their time and energy to do the video and sit down and be interviewed, thanked them, shown the impact, exactly the same way you would with a donor.
Yeah.
treat your internal stakeholders in exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Thank, show impact, feedback, communicate, all of those things.
Promote them internally.
Promote
as
them
well.
internally,
Yeah.
thank them. Sometimes we forget to do it as fundraisers. I think we get so caught up in we've raised this much money, and that, yes, 100% that's is really important. But thanking and showing impact internally is just as important as you do externally.
Interestingly, when I first joined the Scouts, the head of fundraising there, who'd actually brought in this bid, did the introductions, hi, welcome to into your new role. This is, and handed over the brief that we had for that particular fund. It was all great. Anyway, it was challenging. We had to work really quickly to get everything up and running. And she reached out to me privately on Teams and just said, a couple of weeks.
Do you want some more wine? We just stuffing you mid-flow to top you up.
No, I'm going to just give myself...
Because this is what happens at the pub. We'd be like, would you like another round?
Yeah.
So she just reached out to me on Teams and just wanted to say, well done.
Large glass. Oh, yeah. A bit more, Gemma.
I'll take more. We have another bottle. So
Oh, yeah, we do.
bottles.
Yeah.
Good to go.
Doesn't go very
Mystery
far,
Bay.
does it?
Where is Mystery Bay? The Western Cape of, it doesn't say where, it's just
I'm assuming South Africa.
South Africa, the Western Cape of South Africa.
Sorry, Gemma, we interrupted you.
No, it's okay. Impulsive things,
alcoholicness.
pouring wine. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was just saying, so she reached out to me and said thank you.
Isn't that amazing?
And that's built our relationship up. She reached out, said, this is a challenge, and I recognise you doing what you've done. You've done such a great job, and just did that reach out. So, and that helps us build a relationship from there.
I love that happened. I'm really sad that was a standout and not standard.
Absolutely, yeah. But what she doesn't realise she's done is because she introduced me. You can send praise via Teams. Yeah, that's what she did. She sent praise via Teams, and it was just like very personal to me.
Yeah.
And it was really nice because I was new and I didn't know that many people at that level. You know, and you hadn't had the opportunity to build those
Your
friendship.
network is so important.
Yes. So her doing that really introduced me to that, and I've started to adopt that behaviour.
Yeah.
So I reached out to my funnily enough, you mentioned comms. I was just having a conversation quite casually with one of the officers in my programme. And they just mentioned that they'd been working with somebody in the comms team and they'd been incredibly supportive and just giving praise, basically. So I then sent praise to that individual. I mean, we do it publicly, you know, on like the newsletter, the organisational newsletters, which is fine. And then you can get awards and things like that. But this was more like just sending you a little nod that somebody's been sharing some really nice news about you, and I think you need to know.
Whenever you get good feedback, I think whenever you get feedback, it's useful. Whenever you get good feedback, though, there's like a little little warmness that kind of...
And also, I love getting feedback up. I think often you get feedback up, you get kind of constructive feedback. When I get feedback from my team and it's really positive, for me, that's yes. Because it's so easy to give feedback when you're like, oh, you didn't quite land this for me, or I'm not loving this, or that's really not easy feedback to get, but it's more beneficial to them to give it. So then when they go out of their way to say, I just wanted to let you know, I loved this, or, I just wanted to let you know, you're smashing this, or I just that's the bit that I get really makes me really happy.
It gives you that warm fuzzy feeling in the best way. And I think what we are all guilty of not doing is sometimes recognizing in ourselves that actually what we are doing, it might feel like business as usual, but actually it can be setting a standard of best practice internally, potentially externally as well, but certainly we should all be striving to set that internally. And sometimes we see what we're doing is just business as usual, it's our job, that's what we should do, but actually for somebody else to recognize that's great.
Yeah.
It's quite validating. And I think this is part of building really great internal relationships is taking a moment to thank and respect
Yeah.
the people that you are working
Yeah.
alongside. Because to the point at the very beginning of this, we're all working for the same, for a
Yeah.
cause. Like, we could all work in the private sector.
Yeah.
We're choosing not to.
Yeah. So kind of a lot of our listenership are fundraisers. So what is it like kind of from a program's perspective in terms of like exactly as those building great internal relationships, what is it you wish fundraisers knew or could hear, or like you're like, oh, like if this bit when you do this, it's amazing.
From a
From like a service delivery point of view to
yeah, I think what I think is really important for fundraisers to know is to understand, and actually I say fundraisers, I think we all need to know this.
Okay.
We do not need to be experts in all our areas.
No.
And that is some advice I got from my previous organisation, from the CEO, from our last place.
Yeah.
He just said something to me, and it struck a chord around when you become a leader. You don't have to be an expert in all areas, but you have to have an understanding of all areas. So you need to understand marketing and how that complements what you deliver. You need to understand. So, and that stuck with me. But also, we need to understand that the people on the ground delivering, what that looks like for them, because and I even think that for myself, that I'm too far removed these days to understand what they're doing when they basically are delivering what we develop as a
Yeah.
within
what we
that
set
grid.
for them to do.
Yeah, exactly. And that has its challenges, and it can be anything, but the external challenges can impact their delivery. It's not necessarily them, but they set the KPI to deliver for us.
Yeah.
And I just think it's really important, and I do this in everywhere I've worked. I will make sure that when I join somewhere, I go out and I will shadow them for a couple of days, just to understand what it looks like on the ground and really feel the impact that we're making.
Yeah.
In my previous job, I got the biggest buzz out of going out and working and shadowing and understanding
I
that.
think whenever you go out to like a service delivery thing, is why we're all there.
Yeah.
Right. So it kind of, I think whether you're a fundraiser, whether you're working whether you're working in office facilities, like whatever it is you're doing, you are existing in the organization to deliver the mission. So when you are out and you are seeing the work happen, it creates a whole new like sense of purpose in what it is that you're doing. And that is so important.
And it's not going to be linear either, the
No.
delivery. It's going to fluctuate. It's going to have, and that's where the trust comes in.
Yeah.
Like, trust me, I understand how this programme is going to be delivered, and we're going to have a dip during summer, but it'll pick up in September, for example. Yeah.
Exactly.
One of the things Christine did when we worked together, and actually it's something I've like carried through since we worked together, is that you set a KPI for me in my induction period and then kind of like in my PDR later, which was to make sure I was out at least 2 days a year at service delivery. So going and spending time with like we worked at HD, so like going and spend time with like either like a HIV testing service or like up in Glasgow meeting with like peer support counsellors, and that I think is such an important thing. And I kind of had it like informally everywhere else, but actually that like hard KPI of at least 2 days a year, this is expected to be, you need to as a fundraiser, you need to reconnect with what you're fundraising for. I think is a really important thing to do. And so now my team all have that KPI exactly because you set it for me, and actually I love it as like a mindset.
But that's because she gave you the space to do it. It's like you just said in your previous organisation, you'd do it, but it was more because you felt it was the right thing to do. But I think that shows really good leadership when you're giving the person the...
Thanks, guys.
It's okay.
We're giving you good feedback.
I like it. Well, I mean, and so I work for an international development organization now, so going to visit projects is not so easy. It's hard to have that type of KPI, but it is very much now about, for my team, and I'm very excited. I'm actually going to go visit some projects soon for the first time, and that's really great. But I also know that that myself going means that somebody in my team isn't going because it's limited budget. So then I've had to now think quite creatively about how we make sure those stories and that sharing of knowledge and that connecting to what you're fundraising for comes full circle.
Yeah.
And that's been a little bit harder, but no less important. In fact, even more important.
I think it's so important that fundraisers do that, because that is where you're getting your storytelling from.
Yes.
And that is where you're getting your opportunities to identify new programs or new funding opportunities, or where we should be pivoting.
Yeah.
Because you're hearing it from the people that we're doing it for.
Yeah, 100%.
Our whatever you want, participants, clients, whatever we want to call them.
Yeah.
And actually, they are the stakeholders that should be part of the conversation in developing new funding bids.
Yes.
That's what gives it power.
Yeah.
Do you remember, I'm going back a number of years now, I think it was I'm going back way before the pandemic, and I used to run sessions quarterly. I had a steering group, and it was of all the participants of the programme, and we used to bring them together. We'd have like little individual steering groups in each of the regions, because it was covered across the whole of the UK. The programme grew to be UK-wide. So we used to fly people in from Ireland, and we brought everyone together, and it was Birmingham that we used to meet, because it was, And we did a strategy day with them, and we just said, what do you want? And we had...
So good, actually.
Remember?
I remember this very well.
And
because we brought the big lottery fund. So the National Lottery Community Fund now, but at the time they were the big lottery fund.
Yeah.
This is how long ago it was. And we were in the process of applying for like essentially continuation funding, and they were funding like almost £1 million of this program at this time across a number of regions. And they were like, oh, we expect these outputs to be at a different level than they are. And I was like, I think you need to understand, we worked for a pan disability organization at the time. And anyway, I was like, I think you need to understand all the different people that we're working with. And being able to bring this group together and bring funders to it, but make it primarily about the participants in the program was so powerful. And how we were able to use that to inform our storytelling more broadly was so important.
We brought in I say, what do you call them? A scribe, I want to say. But so we held this meeting, and we had a minute taker. But the minute taker was doing the pictures.
Yeah, it was
she was drawing like the
drawings.
images, like a cartoon picture. And we used that. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And then we used that as a tool with all the funding bids, didn't we? So to evidence, this is what the people are asking for. This is what,
Yeah.
It was really powerful.
It's really visual.
Yeah, it was super visual. And it worked across all different streams.
We did it to be accessible, but actually it became the most accessible piece of supporting information for an application because everyone was interested in it.
Yeah.
Shared it in internally in meetings, saying we're being told this is what people want. You might say your policy is this, but actually this is what the people are saying is needed, and then we're using it with the funding bids as a nice little appendix.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really enlightening, and I've loved having our first like proper non-fundraiser on the sofa. If there's one piece of advice you could leave our listeners with today, what would it be?
Be yourself, essentially.
I love that.
Just, have confidence in yourself, be your authentic self, show up. And we come into the charity sector to make a difference. So everything's done with good intent. Yeah. So own that and be confident in that and be yourself.
Nice.
I love that.
I feel that's really powerful words.
Yeah, it really is. It's a great way to to pull together what internal relationships actually really mean.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gemma, so much for joining us
No,
today.
thank you.
And thank you so much for tuning in. Please do like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us reach even more incredible fundraisers out in the sector. You can find us at our website, which is thisisraise.co.uk, and you can also follow us on Instagram at Raise Charity Pod. But here's to raising money, voices, and glasses.
Cheers!
And cut.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That jacket and your eyes.
Yeah, they're like a really
Oh my
good
God. I wanted to say something.
great
to keep- I'm trying to keep it
colour.
professional, but yeah.
Thanks.
I kept it in the microphone.
Drank the entire bottle of wine, didn't touch my water once.
It's